You know, when it comes to our coverage over the X-Men, we had covered a lot of different Wolverine books, right? And you had so many different writers had the opportunity to work on the character. But for me, I feel like only two writers had truly done an amazing job when it came to Wolverine. That would be Chris Claremont, of course, but also Larry Hama. But I kind of realized something here. You have some fans who truly do love Larry Hama's run, but only before Fatal Attractions. And you have some fans, again, who truly do love Larry Hama's run, but after Fatal Attractions. And then you have that third group who are kind of like me, where we love the entire run of Larry Hama. Now, he does have some stories you're kind of like, hey, Larry, what were you trying to do here in this story? But most of the time, the man gave us some great stories when it came to the character of Wolverine. But we're going to cover a two-part story arc that takes place in Wolverine number 92 and 93. Now, let me just say, these two issues are not really anything special when it comes to Wolverine. It's really more of Larry Hama trying to build up some bigger storylines to come, not just in Wolverine books, but also other X books as well. And you see what I mean as we go through today's video. Because as you get into the opening pages for issue number 92, we pick up with Charles Xavier and Beast, but also two other characters from Alpha Flight, the Canadian superhero team, and that'll be Vindicator and also Guardian. Now, with those two characters, they've been close friends to Wolverine for a very long time, but you have all four characters coming together to kind of help figure out how to help out Wolverine, because around this time in Marvel Comics, we had learned that when it came to Wolverine's mutation, that apparently the original plan for it was to slowly turn him into some kind of savage animal. But thanks to adamantium being on his bones, it stopped that process from happening. But as we all know, thanks to Fatal Attractions, he no longer has the adamantium on his bones. And so that process has now continued again. Now, at the same time, you have our four heroes realize that there are a lot of similarities between Wolverine and Sabretooth. And honestly, they don't know what is the true connection between these two characters. But while you have those four characters running these tests on Wolverine and Sabretooth, we're also getting reminded that, okay, when it came to Charles Xavier, he had this crazy idea where he believed that he could fix the mind of Sabretooth. Now, we already know that ain't going to work out, but the man believed he could actually do it, and so he was trying to. But then one day you had our heroes, the X-Men, leave to go deal with Legion, but they left Sabretooth behind for Wolverine to watch, which honestly is a bad idea. But you had the two characters fight, and when it came to Wolverine, he stabbed the head of Sabretooth, which did cause a lot of brain damage. Now, thanks to his healing factor, he was able to survive. But right now, you kind of have our boy Victor here acting like a house pet, not acting like he used to back in the early days of X-Men comics. Now, for Logan, he believes that Sabretooth is faking, but we don't know just yet if that's true or not. But either way, you do have our four heroes continue their tests on Sabretooth and Logan. And what they did was they kind of went ahead and said, hey, Logan, go to the danger room because we're going to put on these wires, these devices to kind of test your biosystem. Now, here comes the problem, though, because once they do attach the devices and also the wires onto him, you have Wolverine's mind begin to slip back into the days where he was part of Weapon X, some very dark days for him. But then on top of that, you didn't have Logan say, you know what? Go ahead and run a simulation here in the danger room. Now, once they do that, his mind has now entered the idea of him being in some kind of forest in the middle of a winter season. Now, here's the thing, because he begins to have a flashback to one of those nights where he was out there in the wild. He found a bunch of dead animals that were killed off by some poachers, and it made him go savage. But let's not forget, he's in the danger room. And so when he sees his two friends at Alpha Flight, he looks at them as poachers and wants to attack them. Now, luckily, you have our heroes shut down the simulation before he was able to do it. but it does show concern that maybe the savage side is beginning to take over more and more when it comes to his mindset. Now, after the failed test, you didn't have Logan just run away. Now, when he does run away, he goes into the forest, where of course it leads him over to this road on the side of a cliff. Now, once he does arrive on this road, he realized two people are about to crash into one another. One of the guys he got in a fight with back in Wolverine issue number 65 at a bar. The other guy is the wife beater that he had almost killed in our last Wolverine video. But he realized that both people are about to crash into one another very soon. And now for Logan, his main goal is to stop the wife beater driver from killing the biker. The problem is the wife beater wants to kill off Wolverine because he remembers that Logan had almost killed him, but thankfully for the guy, the rest of the X-Men were there to stop him from killing off the wife beater. Now, while all of this is going on, Wolverine's still wearing devices and wires that Charles Xavier and the rest of the group had given him earlier. And so they're still able to kind of run tests on Wolverine, but also watch this 3D hologram of him as he goes through the motions of this situation. Now, Wolverine does get hit by the car, and once he does, his body is torn up. But his healing factor is healing him up at a fast rate he used to when he had the adamantium. And so for the other four characters, they're very amazed by his healing factor. Now, they believe at first that Wolverine might go into this savage mode because he just got hit by a car, by somebody he almost killed in our last story. But you have Wolverine go out of his way to help the guy get out of the vehicle before it blew up, killing him off. And then once you have Wolverine do that, well, he just grabs a beer, drinks it, and walks away. And so for Charles Xavier, he kind of believes in the possibility that yes, Wolverine does have this savage side inside of him, but that savage side is being, taken over by his human side, the true man side of Wolverine. Now, for Logan, he kind of realized after all of that, he felt like somebody was watching him, but he couldn't see them. And the reason why, because they're cloaked. Now, as he walks away, they do reveal themselves to us. It'll be two characters, one being Zoe Culloden, and we know a tad bit about her. She belongs to a company known as Landau, Luckman, and Lake. It was a company kind of made to help take care of the assets belong to Logan, but she is one of her colleagues. The problem is we have no idea who this colleague is, but both characters right now are trying to watch over Logan for some strange reason. Now we do jump over to issue number 93. Now issue number 93, we do get the cover of Wolverine, about to fight Juggernaut. It doesn't happen in the book at all. But what does happen is that you do have Larry Hama kind of using different pieces of this book to build up the different storylines that's going to happen down the road in later Wolverine books. And you see what I mean as we go through this issue right here. Because we do pick up with a character known as Cyber. Now for Cyber, he was defeated by Wolverine in an earlier storyline. And matter of fact, he was defeated back on, I want to say, Muir Island. So that's why he's kind of locked up near the island in a different country. But either way, you do have Cyber locked up at the moment, right? But then out of nowhere, you do have the Dark Riders appear. Now the Dark Riders, they used to work for Apocalypse. And the whole idea of survival of the fittest was their main thing because of Apocalypse. The strong may live, the weak may die, the strong may lead, the weak must follow. The whole idea of survival of the fittest. Now, by this point, Apocalypse is no longer around. You now have Genesis, the son of Cable, who took that role up. And so for the Dark Riders, they're working for him. Now, in an earlier storyline we covered, we saw Tyler say like his next project is to go after Wolverine. That is his next goal. And so right now it's the Dark Riders breaking down Cyber, and most likely for that goal that he is trying to reach. Now, for me, the next section is really more just Larry Hama having a good old time. And the reason why, because we pick up Wolverine trying to hunt down an animal. Now, unfortunately, his hunt is ruined thanks to Cannonball. We have to remember that by this point, Cannonball is no longer part of X-Force. He's now part of the X-Men team, but he did kind of ruin the hunt for Wolverine by just flying by. And so for Logan, he now wants to race Cannonball. And so you have Logan go out of his way, get his motorcycle to race Cannonball through the woods. Now, Storm sees what's happening. She's kind of like, this is a bad idea. One, you're on a motorcycle, and two, you're trying to ride that cycle in the middle of a forest. Have you lost your mind? But now we kind of dive into why I say Larry Hama is trying to help out the other X books, because now we pick up with the Juggernaut. Now, in an earlier storyline, we saw Homeboy like fly across the entire country because of a character known as Onslaught. Now, we don't know at this point in time who Onslaught is, but apparently he's powerful enough to send the Juggernaut flying across the country. And so ever since then, the dude has been in a coma and been staying in the medical bay of Charles Xavier School. And so now it's him just waking up, freaking out, and just leaving the entire school and panicking. And for the X-Men, they're kind of like, hey, let him go, because technically we can't stop him. That's how powerful he truly is. And so it kind of leads into this funny part of the story, because you do have Wolverine take Cannonball over to a bar and technically lie about the age of Cannonball to allow him to drink, because Wolverine said, hey, you know what? You beat me fair and square in our race, so I owe you a drink or two. And so right now you have Cannonball drunk, but while they're drinking, you didn't have Juggernaut appear. Now, when he appears, it's kind of like, okay, cool. We're possibly going to see Wolverine and Cannonball fight against the big dude. Now, Cannonball tries, and he fails multiple times when it comes to fighting against Juggernaut. But for Wolverine, he's kind of like, hey, you're not going to kill the kid at all. If you try, I'm going to try to take you down. Now, for Logan, he knows there's no way he'll win that battle. But then out of nowhere, you have the Juggernaut leave. Now, for Logan, he kind of realized that Juggernaut was not scared of him, but most likely scared of something else or someone else. And the question is now, who? And so now, again, is Larry Hama building up to a bigger storyline. Now, you do have Storm appear, and when Storm appears, she's kind of like, what in the world happened here at this bar? Now, you do have the guys tell her like, hey, it was the Juggernaut, he was here, but he just left. Now, they believe he's out back. The problem is that when they go out back, they don't find him. And the reason why, because Zoe appears again with her colleague, but also they make him disappear by teleporting him away somewhere else. And the question is now, what is Zoe and also her colleague truly up to? But the book ends on that note right there. And so with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.